Hello, my name is Nathan Stuke, and I'm the CEO of Wisper. And I appreciate you joining me today. We're still out here trying to get some more content out to people just to help with the whole situation. And we thought we would change up our schedule a little bit and talk about the coronavirus and what we've done, what I've heard other WISPs doing to help and everything. So no slides today. You get to look at me, sorry. But we're going to go through kind of what we've done, and we'll be able to take some questions if you have any. You can chat them in, and then we'll see if we can answer those. So the first thing is what I'm going to share with you is what I've heard other companies doing, what we're doing. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. So if you have any questions, definitely check with your lawyer as to how to interpret some of the things. But I will share with you kind of what we're trying to do and trying to help the customers along the way and our employees. So I think the first thing to do is kind of look at, unprecedented times. These are amazing times. We've had record installs. I know most of the lists I talk to are double their normal install rate. Everybody's setting records, and it's something that it shows how important broadband is, especially in these rural society where, oh, I don't have broadband at home, but I go into the office and I use it. Well, that kind of becomes a problem when you're not going into the office or you're not going to school. So it's interesting to see the shift. The other thing I think that's shifting is that, in not all areas, but in a lot of areas, in my mind, DSL is the new dial-up. It doesn't have very much upload. The line qualities are very bad. You can't stream Netflix or do video chatting over it that well. So this is a push. This is something that it's been happening slowly over time that people are getting off of dial-up, going on to other services. But I really see this as a catalyst. This is that push that kind of nailed the coffin shut for DSL as far as the number of customers switching away from that, needing faster services and faster plans for everybody to be at home. Another thing interesting kind of to note, and I know other people have said, oh, no, our demand is going way up. Other people have said it's expanding. I looked at our traffic, and our demand has gone up, but not exponentially. But what's happened is it's expanded. So it used to start at like 3:30 in the afternoon and go until 11 or 12. Now it starts at like 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, and then it's pretty steady throughout the day. Not too much of a ticket in the evening. And then it seems to be ending earlier. So instead of 11:30, 12, it seemed to be ending around 10:30, 11 o'clock. So I don't know if that's because everybody's using the internet so much during the day that they don't want to stay up and use it for the rest of the time. But I thought that was kind of interesting to see. We were very fortunate to have some extra capacity in our network for the peak times, and now that peak is kind of stretched out some. So those are some of the things I've seen talking to other WISP and other cable providers. That's the same thing they're seeing as well. Record number of installs and just getting customer service. And I think that comes down to what's the real problem. We want to keep our employees safe. We want to keep our customers and potential customers safe. Yet we have this major need. And I know the federal government put broadband as a tier 2 mission critical. So it was water and electricity and healthcare were tier 1s, and broadband is a tier 2. And I might argue a little bit that we're actually more important than water. You can bottle water and save it. You can fill up your bathtub and use it as you need. You can personally go get it. Like, so if you need to go get water at a store or whatever, you can buy it and bring it back, and you can transport it yourself. Whereas internet, an individual person, unless you own an ISP, an individual person can't transport the internet. They can't bottle it up and save it for later. And you either use it or you lose it, and it's your connection to the world. So I would venture to say it's actually a tier 1, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, we're a critical infrastructure. And that means we have to keep our businesses up and running at the same time trying to safeguard our employees. And I would have to say that at the beginning of the whole virus outbreak and what was going to happen and were there shutdowns, we operate in 6 states, and some states had mandatory lockdowns, shelter in place. Others didn't have anything, and it was, well, whatever you want to do, and it's up to you. And so it's been interesting to see how it's kind of evolved across the different states that we provide service in. Our main office is here in Mascoutah, Illinois, and that was one of the first states to say, yes, stay at home, shelter in place, everybody work from home. So today I want to go over kind of what we're doing for our office people, what we're doing for our field people, and how we've kind of approached that and what we've done. So the biggest thing for me was, as it was first happening, was we didn't have all the information. And I kind of talked about this last week in the leadership, that we had information was changing hourly, if not every minute. There was new information here, and what's going to happen here, and what do you have to do here. And I think the bottom line that we took was, we want to do what's right and what we can do for our employees. We want them to be able to work from home. Like I said, in Illinois, they said that it was a mandatory, work from home. We went through our list of all of our employees and said, okay, every employee that can work from home, you must work from home. We want you to work from home. A couple of them said, well, no, I need to come into the office for this reason or that reason. We evaluated the risk and said, okay, no, yeah, you do need to come in. We have obviously our inventory people. If we're going to continue to install customers, we have to have our inventory ready to go. If we have some finance people that all their records are here, all their paper files are here, so they had to come into the office. So we made a case by case decision on those, and sent everybody else working from home. We allowed them to take monitors, and obviously they had their computers and phones and everything they needed to be able to be productive at home. And I think for us, we had a couple employees that were concerned. At first, we tried to set up a daycare at the office because it was all the kids were out of school, but it wasn't a work from home state. And we're like, hey, anybody who needs to bring their kids in, that's fine. We'll hire somebody to take care of them, just to make it easier for them. But then within a week, it was like, nope, you have to all stay at home. And I know we had a couple employees that were concerned. They're either single parents, or obviously you have more distractions going on, kids running around, kids asking questions, needing help with their homework. And some of our employees were actually very concerned. Well, if my numbers go down, like our call center people, if my numbers go down, am I going to get in trouble, and what's going to happen? We're like, no. We totally understand that productivity may go down while you're at home, and you may have kids that need help with this and that. And we want you to be able to help those. And you obviously have to run, especially the single families where single parents, where they have to run a family at home with the kids running around and, mommy, I'm hungry, daddy, I need this or something. So we've been very understanding with our employees. With that being said, we still want them to try to get as much work as they can done, because our calls are going up. People want new service, or they want their problems fixed. Now they're seeing different problems. Fortunately, a lot of the inside problems are with individual computers or something, and we're able to fix those with them. So when we look at that, it's kind of a give or take. It's like, we understand you're not going to be as productive, but when you are, please. A couple things we've been able to do is stagger work sessions, so work time. So maybe you work in the morning after you get the kids breakfast, and then you take off a little bit of longer time for lunch in order to help the kids get them their homework, do what they need to do, and then maybe you come back on later than you normally would. Kind of the nice thing with not having to commute is there's no commute time in there. But we definitely want to work with our employees that work from home, and we understand that sometimes it's a little harder to get things going. But they're all working, and they're all doing a really good job. I've been very impressed. They're all trying to stay on top of things. The other things we've instituted is kind of like a stand-up meeting. So each one of our departments has a daily stand-up meeting, from our leadership all the way down. It's a quick video meeting where they all get together and they're like, okay, hey, what's going on? How's it working? What are you doing? Just to kind of stay connected, because staying connected is important during these times. And that's also helped us have fast iterations, if you will. So there might be a problem that somebody saw, and normally the normal course of action is they would tell their manager, and then their manager would run in, precipitously run into somebody and say, oh, hey, we need to deal with this. Or maybe they put it on a list to be dealt with next week. Well, right now, sometimes dealing with it next week is too late, or you don't have those those by chance meetings, right? Where you're like, oh, hey, I just ran into you. Let me ask you a question. So now we're having to schedule, and we have those for all of our departments to have it on a daily basis. 15, maybe 30 minutes at the most is what we want, and we want to be able to connect that way, and still be responsive to the needs of our employees. And by taking care of our employees, then in turn, they take care of our customers, and they feel the love we have for our employees, and then they give that love to our customers as well, in understanding and doing the best job they can. They're well informed as to what we are or not doing. And I'll get into a little bit of the messaging. I think it's important we have the same messaging across the company, and I'm going to get into a little bit of what our messaging was. So that's what we did for our office employees. Obviously, work from home and do the best they can. Sometimes they have to come in and get things, and then they can go back and work from home more. We're trying to get some of that, stay out of the office as much as possible. We also increased our cleaning schedule here, so those of us that have to be in the building, we've got more cleaning procedures going on, and we're just trying to be kind of smart about it. Some of those common sense things of wash your hands more, keep your hands away from your face, and even when we do have in-person meetings, we're still further apart. And that's one thing that we do with like our installers. They come in once a week, and we have them. Before, they were having meetings together, and it's like, no. If one installer gets sick because of something, then we don't want them to infect everybody else. So now they need to stay away from each other. We've even had some interviews where we have 3 of us from the same building in a virtual interview, and we're all logging into the video call from our different offices. So I can hear an echo of what somebody's saying next to me in the on the call, but that's the safe way to be able to do that. And we've tried to change and make those things available to our employees. The other thing we've had to do is we're still hiring tons of people. We're ramping up for our CAF deployment. We've hired, I think, almost 30 people in the last 100 and some odd days. We have another 20 some odd positions open, and it's one thing to keep the hiring process going because it's pretty easy to do a virtual interview and do multiple things. But now, how do you do training? Training is really, really hard to do. We have a lot of good training programs, but we had to turn them into virtual. And then it's like, okay, I went through all the virtual, but now I have physical things I have to train you on, whether it's an installer or a tower person. And those are sometimes hard, or, hey, I need to shift around. And I have a new executive assistant during this whole time. And it's been a little hard. It's because she's not right next to me to ask me all those questions. I have to schedule time with her, and we go over what's working, what's not working, and what do we need to do. So that training becomes important. But what's I found is kind of interesting is, we cover 6 states, and we always kind of typically did training back at our headquarters office in Mascoutah. We would bring people back here, but now that we're being forced to do this virtual training, it's like, wait a minute, this actually might be a really good thing because we're going to have the vast majority of our training set up to be virtualized, and then only have the pieces that have to be physical be done in physical, and then we can also do relationship building when we bring them in person. It's an interesting thing that I think is going to come out of all this is being able to do more virtual training and being it more acceptable, if you will. So kind of the other thing that we've done for our tower employees is they don't really see each other, or they don't see customers, right? They're out doing towers, working on those. They do ride in pairs, so they need to ride together. We've taught them, wash your hands, the 20 seconds after you fill up with gas. Try not to go into the gas station if you don't have to. We've gotten hand sanitizers, and we've been able to do those couple things. But fortunately, for the most part, the tower crew doesn't really change. But they know that if they meet someone out of the tower, like an owner or tower owner, tell the tower owner, hey, stay 6 feet away. They can have a conversation. They can get approval for whatever they're doing, but we need to keep a safe distance, and we go and do it that way. So it hasn't really changed too much of their working, other than their normal weekly meetings that we have. It's a little hard with that. So now, kind of getting into our installers, and this is where it's the customer interaction, right? How do we deal with the customer? How do we keep our installers safe? And what do we do? So the first thing we do is when we actually communicate with the customer. So an office person takes their call for a new install or a service visit. We ask the customer, have you been exempted? Do you have any symptoms? Does anyone in your family have any symptoms? Have you been around anyone that has the symptoms? And then we say that, we're sorry, our employees, our installers are not going to be as friendly as they normally are, right? Normally we come into the house, we spend as much time with the customer making sure all their devices are connected. We've decided, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to be a little standoffish. They're to tell the customer when they get there, they ask the same question again. Do you have any symptoms? Have you been around anybody that has any symptoms? It is ultimately the installer's last, they're the ones that make the final call as to whether they want to go into the house or not, or whether they want to do the service call. If they're there and a lot of people are coughing and hacking, even though that means they may not have the virus, they can make that decision not to go in and say, nope, they call their manager and we'll reschedule for another time. Or we'll do something creative like, oh, if your problem is your router isn't working, well, I tell you what, here's one of our routers in a little bag. We'll pass it to you in a bag so it's as protected as we can. And then we'll talk the customer through it over the phone as to how to get it connected or something. So we've really tried to limit the amount of time that our installers go into the house. The other thing we've started doing, and I know a lot of WISPs were doing this with some varying success, is we're drilling a larger hole. So we went to a 1/2-inch hole in the house instead of the 5/8, and we're pushing an end through. We do the install, we run a cable in, and then we put an end on it, and then we push it through the wall, and the customer then takes care of everything inside. We have a little one pager that shows them how to hook up the router and what to do, so that way we don't even have to enter in the house. The installer may work with the customers. Okay, where's a good place to drill the hole, and how does it all work? But that's something we've been able to do. I know the other thing we're doing is some temporary installs. So maybe the best place to install is over here. We'd have to run a cable through the attic. We'll just temporarily run a cable all the way down, even though it doesn't look that good for right now. It's the safest, best way to do it. We've run cables underneath garage doors before because the garage door can close on it and open on it. And that's fine. So that way we don't have to go in the house. We make an extra 100 feet and the person can take it anywhere in the house they want. I know another WISP, I thought it was a great idea I heard today, is they run the normal cable down into like a surge protector, and then they're using flat Cat5 cable to go into the house by the window. So they go into the window, and that flat Cat5 allows you to still close the window, have it be weather tight, and get the customer service that way. So that way you don't have to go inside. And then they're tracking all of those to plan on coming back and fixing them with the customer. So those are some of the things that we're doing to keep our installers out of the house. The other thing we do is we have a Wisper Care program where we provide a managed router, and about 60 to 70% of our customers would take us up on that offer of the managed router. We charge $9.95 a month for that. What we're doing right now during this time is we're mandating that every customer has our router. Our installers can configure it out in the van. Our installers can put it in a little baggie. They can set it on the front porch. The customer can get that. They can connect it with our little description as to how to do it. And now it has our router. If there's any tech support problems that have to go on, we can see into the house. We can help the customer, and it alleviates a lot of the excess need of truck rolls. But because it's a mandatory thing, we are waiving our $10 fee for the next 2 months. And if this whole thing carries on longer than that, we'll waive it longer. So the customer can cancel after this and say, no, they want to use their own router or do something. But that's something that we changed and said that we're going to mandate everybody use our router so we can help the customers as best we can with what we're doing. As far as service calls and going out, we're trying to do everything we can outside. Again, if it's a router that died or something that happened, the installer will troubleshoot as best they can. And then we'll give a customer a router and they can take them inside and they do some of that plugging in and testing. We also have masks for our installers. We have hand sanitizers. We were fortunately able to get some. A lot of the distilleries are starting to provide hand sanitizers, so you can talk with them about maybe getting some, and gloves. And the other thing we talked about with the mask, it's one thing to wear a mask, but remember, the virus can come in on your clothes and everything. So just because you wear a mask around the customer and then you get kind of hot and then you take it off and then you're sweaty and you wipe and everything, that doesn't make you any safer. So we want to make sure that you take off the mask, you don't touch your face still, you wash your hands either with normal water and soap if you can't get hand sanitizer, or with hand sanitizer, wash your hands. And then be cognitive of the fact that it could still be on your clothes. So you don't want to rub up against your clothes and then have it all day. When you get home, take off all your clothes right there, jump in a shower, take a shower, clean, wash your clothes in the washer machine. And those are all safety precautions that the different medical groups are recommending. especially for those that have to be out and communicating with customers and being next to customers. And it's interesting, while I don't feel that our installers are in a risk profile, right? They're in a very, very low risk profile. Even if they did catch it, they hopefully wouldn't die from it. It's really actually the customers. We want to make sure that if we go to a customer's house, we're doing everything we can to keep them safe, and that's why we put in some of these measures. We have had a couple customers that, when asked to stay 6 feet away, they don't. They're like, "Oh no, we're out here in the rural market, and it's not that big of a deal, and it's we don't care." Our installers can walk away from the install, and they've had to threaten a couple times to say, "Nope, we're just not going to install you." And they're like, "Oh, you take it that seriously?" Like, yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we want to make sure we're taking it as seriously as we can, to try to prevent the spread, and everything. So that's something that, leaving that, empowering your installers with that, is something that should allow them to make that final judgment call. Again, kind of the consistent message. So we tell them, the customer, when they call in, when we get ready to do their install or their service visit, we also sent out some email communications as to steps we're taking. But we tell them that, yes, if you're sick, we don't want to come in and do it. We're going to try not to come into your house and do those different things. So we've changed that part, but it's a consistent message from when you call into our CERs to when you get scheduled by our dispatch person to when the installer shows up at your house. And we want to make sure we have those consistent. We don't want to be telling them one thing and telling them another. The other thing that I haven't heard is happening, but I had it happen to me. Our refrigerator went out, unfortunately, last Friday, and we had to have a service technician come into our house. The company assured me that he would wear gloves and have a mask, and everything would be fine. He came into our house, no glove, no mask, standing really close to my family, trying to work on the fridge. And it was interesting. It's like, whoa, hold on a second. We may all feel that we're safe, but we need to take these precautions, because I don't want to get it and then have other people at Wisper have, get it and everything. So we had to ask him to put on a mask and a glove, and he had them all. He just chose not to do it. So be careful with your installers, just to make sure they understand why. Most of our installers are like, oh, heck yeah, they're the ones asking for the gloves and the masks and everything, but there's a chance that they don't put it on, and you want to make sure that they're following those. So that's some of the things that we've been doing. The other thing I wanted to touch on today was the Keep America Connected pledge. This is the FCC's pledge that they had. We signed on to it. I think it's a great thing. It basically, in a nutshell, says that we won't terminate any residential or small business, for their inability to pay their bills due to disruption caused by coronavirus. It says that we will waive any late fees to any residential that incur because of the economic circumstances related to the pandemic. And it also says it will open up our hotspots to any American that needs them. So what it doesn't mean, though, is what we sent out to our employees, is it doesn't mean that we're not going to charge for our service. So it isn't that everybody gets free service. We have done some free service to people who needed service from schools, and they needed it for connecting to schools. And we worked with the school system to find out who needed the service and everything. But for the most part, we still expect people to pay for their service. We are still sending out invoices. We're just not going to shut them off for failure to pay. And we're not going to do it for right now 60 days. If this goes on longer, we're going to extend that. But we're also, doesn't mean we can't collect for that. So just because you couldn't pay us for those 60 days doesn't mean that we won't leave it on your account, and we'll work with you to set up some type of a payment schedule when you get back on your feet. I know during the economic downturn in 2008, one of our questions was, do you, if you called in and said, listen, I lost my job, I don't have any money, but I need the internet to either study or to find a job, we would ask them if they had canceled pay TV, because over-the-air TV was just fine. And when I started Wisper, I didn't have any money either, and I canceled pay TV. So we asked them that question. If they said yes, then we gave them 3 months worth of free service. If they said no, then we said, well, please cancel your TV and give us a call back. Now, I understand the customer could actually have, just gone out and canceled, or not canceled TV and called back and said they did. But it's something that we kind of stand behind, that what is essential, what is non-essential. We're more than happy to help our customers. We just want to make sure that they're helping themselves as well. So we did go ahead and we canceled our automatic disabling mechanism that we have to not cancel anybody for non-payment. And the other thing we did was we kind of looked at it and said, well, 90% of all this is everything we already do. We work with our customers that can't pay us regardless of why. We try to set up payment plans for them. We try to help them out wherever we can. And there's about 10% that, normally when we have to do different things that we're changing, but it wasn't a big departure, but we were very, very clear as to what to communicate to the customer, what it did or didn't mean, because your employees might hear or see something on Facebook and say, oh, that's what we need to do. But there is a company policy work with the employees. And then if they have any that they don't know, then obviously they can bring it up with their manager and what they're able to do. So those are some of the things that we are doing. I truly believe that we're kind of only seeing the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg so far. That the repercussions of what this is, there's a lot out there. There's a lot going on, and we won't understand the full ramifications until way after the fact. I just thank the Lord that I'm in an industry that is vitally needed at this time. It's way better to determine who I need to hire versus who I need to lay off, and that's something that we don't want to do, and we're trying to hire as many people as we can. If you're a small business and you're listening to this, which I would imagine most of us are, there's a couple definitions of small business, but one of them's under 500 employees, and then it's a revenue number as well. There's the PPP SBA loan that will cover about 2.5 months worth of your payroll. They take some numbers from last year, and that's the payroll number they use. So I would highly, highly recommend you look into that. Most banks that do SBA lending are doing that, and they're helping you out. It's not too late to sign up for that. That's something that I would highly recommend. We've done it. Every WISP I've talked to has done it. So I would imagine most of you are up on that. But that's something that I would really, really look into. I also just heard from a WISP that has the 7A loan from SBA that they have 6 months worth of payments that are being basically wiped off. You don't have to pay them. So check with your bank on that. Make sure if that's something that you can qualify for. I don't know about the program. I don't know what's out there, but it's something that if they do forgiveness for 6 months, that you don't have to make your payments. That would help your cash flow to be able to buy equipment and be able to keep installing and connecting customers. Because while this is a great opportunity for us as WISP to add customers, I think what I've been really impressed with our industry is that it's not about adding the customers and adding that revenue. It's about connecting people who desperately need it. And it's great to see in our industry, people are stepping up. We have our guys running overtime as much as they can possibly do, coming in on nights and weekends to get people installed. And it's just a great feeling to know that you're connecting this family that's stuck at home to the outside world. And that's what's important. And that's what we definitely love to do already, virus aside. But it's really neat during these hard times to be able to be somebody who can bring that connectivity to people who have never had it before. And it's something that's it's a vibe I've gotten from most of the WISPs I've talked to. I've talked to probably about 50 to 60 of them, and it's neat to see that that's what everybody's doing. We're all hunkering down, doing the best we can to do those. So that's kind of what we're doing. Hopefully I was able to give you some ideas or reconfirm some of the decisions you've made. Again, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not your lawyer, but these are just things that we have done that we are looking at, and we're trying to do the best we can with the information we have and see what we have. So that's some of those things. I don't know if there are any other questions or anything that anybody has. I know one question is are you mandating that your employees work? We are not mandating that they work. Our installers, if they say, hey, this is not for me, I don't want to go into houses, I don't want to do this, I shouldn't be anywhere near them, then they can take PTO, which is paid time off if they have it, or they can take unpaid leave. That's fine if they don't want to do that work. We're not mandating they have to do it. Our people who work from home, for the most part, there's no reason for them not to want to work. Obviously, like I said before, we are working with them to help them, those that are especially those that are, single parents. What can we do to adjust their schedule to help them? But we haven't forced anybody to come into the office that wasn't willing to be here of their own accord. So, okay. Yeah. And with that, I think that's great. I appreciate you chiming in. Hopefully it was helpful, and we'll be back next week with our regular scheduled programming, if you will. We're going to be talking about leadership kind of part 2. So thank you very much.